Hello, welcome to the next episode of The Inner Estate with your host, Bridget Stuart. I'm so excited. My guest today is the incredible Tony Caliendo. Tony, thank you for being my guest today.
Oh my gosh, I was thrilled when I heard that there was an opportunity. I couldn't wait to do this with you. So
I
thanks.
know, I can't either. And one of the reasons I can't wait is we are going to talk about such an incredible topic that I believe is not discussed or explored enough. And I'm going to turn this over to you and tell us, what is the concept that you use to create massive, significant change for your clients?
Yeah, great question. So I refer to this as the thought flow model. And Bridget, I firmly believe, and I'm living proof, and my clients are living proof, that thoughts really drive all results. And what I love about this is, I'll take on a new client or I'll meet an agent and have a conversation. And what I love is that it's not about doing more. Typically, it's not about getting the client to do more. Make another 20 calls, knock on another 30 doors, do whatever activity you're doing. It's about getting this in alignment. And then you just go back to doing what you were doing. And the results are phenomenal because you've changed the programming of how this is going to work in your life. For me, I got introduced to this back in 2010.
Okay.
I was a team leader of Keller Williams' office. And for one of the first times, I was failing. And I was like, I just was not in a great spot about it. And I was introduced to this model, and I did some work on my own, and I'm NLP certified and all that fun stuff. And this one model changed my success in that role in an instant. It was just like the light bulb came on, the path was clear, and I was in the flow. So this is what we've used as the foundation of our coaching at Rethink and what we use with our clients. And it's helped clients break through seven-figure income earning year after year after year. And it's not been by doing more, which is what I love.
That's what intrigued me when you first mentioned the thought flow model to me. And you mentioned that you have multiple clients that went from earning six figures a year to seven and doing it
Yes,
with consistency and doing it with ease and elegance. And so I will stop talking and allow you to share with everyone the concepts of this.
sure. So if you think about it, our thoughts do drive all results. And this
They
is
do.
typically what happens. Something happens, a circumstance. It's usually an external thing. And we can just use an example in our real estate world when interest rates went up. That was the circumstance, right? We couldn't control it. We can't control it. It's just what it is. But that circumstance has an impact on your thought. Our brains do. I love thinking about thoughts as just little short stories that our brain creates to process the thought. So circumstance happens, a thought is triggered. The brain's like, okay, let me make a little story up about this because I need to be able to comprehend it and bring it to the conscious level. And it does, it creates a story. Typically, it's not a good one, right? When interest rates first went up, a lot of agents were thinking, I'm never going to be able to sell a house. Nobody's going to buy, nobody's going to sell. That was kind of the story that was being created. Well, that thought triggers a feeling, an emotion, or an energy. And if it's a negative thought, it's typically going to trigger a negative feeling, a
Yes.
negative emotion, or negative energy, right? So fear, anger, doubt, all of the emotions that you can have and the feelings you have are going to show up from that negative thought. And so then you've got this feeling, emotion, energy, and now I'm going to go make lead generation calls. I'm probably not going to because I'm going to keep reliving that story. Nobody's going to buy,
Yes.
nobody's going to sell. Why bother calling? Or if I'm bold enough, I'm still going to pick up the phone or do my lead gen, but I'm doing it in a negative energy space. I'm doing it with negative feeling, negative emotions. So I'm taking the action. However, it's going to dictate the result I get because that
That's right.
energy precedes you in everything that you do, every single
It
thing.
does.
And so ultimately, if you're not getting the result you want, we typically, as entrepreneurs, high driving salespeople, just say, well, I'll just do more.
More. Yep.
I'll just do
Yeah, that's right.
more. And
Yeah.
that might work for a moment. It's not usually long lasting. What we really need to do is say, okay, if I'm not getting the result I want, I'm going to go back and look at the actions. Then I'm going to go back and look at the feeling, energy, and emotion I had before I took or didn't take action. And then I'm going to say, okay, what thought created that feeling, that energy, that emotion? That's the game changer. Can't change the circumstance, but I can change the thought that I'm having. Once you change the thought, everything else below it, feelings, energy, emotion, actions, results, all change. All
Yes.
change. And it's not requiring you to do more. It's just you're showing up completely different, and that energy is transcended upon the person that you're speaking to, and you will see better results. So the model works kind of up and down. So it's thoughts, feelings, actions, results. It's always in that order. But what I always tell a client, don't wait until you're having crummy results. If you're feeling angry or scared or anxious or whatever it is, stop there. That's that feeling, energy, emotion, and stop. Clean up the thought, and then you can move forward to taking action and get the results you want. So this model has worked for me, both in my career at the time that I learned of it, and then when we launched Rethink Coaching back in 2019. I know you understand this. We have all of these certifications, all of this work, all of this great mindset stuff, but we still have a human brain.
Correct.
And all these thoughts were coming to me like, who do you think you are? You're going to launch a coaching company. There's all these huge companies. And how are you going to be successful? And I really had to live into this model to change things,
I think
and
it's
it did.
incredible. Could you take me back to when you were a team leader, 2010?
Yes. Yep.
And we were team leaders at the same time at different regions. And you learned this process.
Yes.
When you learned it, you were currently failing, right? And so you go to whatever training you went to and you were exposed to this concept. Could you take us back to that time? Did you start implementing it right away? Then did your success as a team leader change? Could you give us a little bit of the
Sure.
after? You gave us the before. Give us a little more of the after.
Of the after, yeah. So
Yeah.
I ran a successful real estate team and I sold it. Prior to that, I was a successful executive with Marriott Hotels. So I usually was thriving. And for
Right.
whatever reason, when I took on this role, I got in my head about it. And so when I went to this training program and learned the impact of thoughts, and I sat with it, and I had to get really honest with myself and say, okay, what thoughts are you having about yourself in this role? And it really, all of the negative stuff was bubbling up. Who do you think you are? Who's going to want to come join your office? People don't view you as a leader; they view you as an agent. They saw you as all of that was really going on. So of course, I hired a coach that was had this in their toolkit
Right.
to work with me. I had a coach, but they were more a numbers coach,
Mhm.
and I didn't need that. It was more logic. And I was like, has nothing to do with logic. I'm a smart business person. I know the numbers. I know what I need to do. So I hired a coach that worked on the mindset side, and we dug deep into this model. And they introduced, and I'll share this with you as well in a minute. They introduced another model to me, Byron Katie, the 4 questions. So I could
Yes.
change the thought. And so, Bridget, what I loved is as soon as I realized that I had the power to change my results by simply changing the thought, it was like somebody pulled the curtain back and I was shown the secret to the biggest magic trick in the world.
Mhm.
Because I really had to work on this every day. I really had to work on my thoughts every morning before I started. And all of a sudden, I was setting appointments, which was my job to set appointments with
That's
agents to
right.
get them to
Yeah.
come, to come join the
Yeah.
brokerage. And as soon as I started reframing and changing the thought, the results started to show up. And
It's
it was
amazing.
like the end of the week, I'm like, well, that was easy. Why have
That's right.
40 other weeks behind me have not been easy? So it really was transformational in a very quick way. It wasn't 6 months of working it and then you start to see gradual results. It was boom. It was instant.
Right. And I imagine, so you mentioned something about energy.
Yes.
And energy transference, it comes through the phone. So if you were calling agents to set appointments and you were in the previous thoughts, self doubt, questioning, who am I? Why am I here? Who's going to do this? They can perceive that because it affects your tonality. I am going to
Completely.
ask you a question that I didn't tell you I was going to ask you. I know that I can raise my hand and say yes. I had some days when I was either lead generating for business as an agent or reaching out to connect with agents as a team leader where I was not in the right mindset, but I am a high D, very action oriented driver. So, of course, I still made my calls, right? Those were some of the least effective calls ever because even if I attempted to, put on the suit to fake the energy,
Yes.
it comes across as disingenuous. And even though I was saying the right things and I was going through the motions, people pick that up. We're highly intuitive, even if we don't want to acknowledge it. But when you do, like you said, when you actually address it from the moment you wake up and you have a mindset protective routine and you set the thoughts in the energy of engagement, attraction, curiosity,
Yes.
listening, and that people want to connect with you, you can make calls to those same people who didn't engage before and actually then engage with them.
100%. Yeah. It's a game changer.
In your work, where do you see your clients resist this the most? What are the common obstacles?
First is to resist using the model, or yeah, I think our brains do a really good job of protecting us, right? There's still a part of our brain, no matter how much we've evolved, that's still fairly primitive. And
Yes.
it views, like you're going to leave the cave and you might get killed, right? It wants to protect you from danger. As simple as doing something you've never done before or embracing an idea that you've never embraced before, the brain is going to kick into that primitive and be like, Bridget, don't do that. Because if you fail, you could get hurt, right? So it's going to flood you with a bunch of thoughts about why this won't work because it doesn't want you to take action. It thinks it's protecting you. And
That's
so
right.
that's really the first thing when a client's resisting a bit is really to kind of dig into what's the story, why are we resisting it, and to work on that belief that it is possible and help them see the way forward. But yeah, some people will resist it just because it's different and it's new, and it is going to have them thinking differently than before. So consider this, right? Statistically, we have about 60,000 thoughts a day.
Mhm.
80% are negative. So we live more in the negative thought space. All of a
Yes.
sudden, you're wanting your little brain to be like, "Oh, I'm going to change that, and I'm going to go live in
Right.
the little sector that we don't spend much time in, and it's not comfortable." So I want to stay comfortable. It happens on an unconscious level. So really introducing somebody to shifting completely, they have to trust you, and you have
Yes.
to. They really do. And so it's really with a lot of clients I work with, I'm like, hey, what we're doing is not working. What if we just did this for 2 weeks? 2 weeks, we did the work and we track your results. And that's sometimes what we would have to do because that brain is so locked into don't do something different.
You know what is fascinating, and you might know this statistic off the top of your head more than I do. Not only is the vast majority of thoughts are negative, but how many of them are repetitive? We have the same thoughts day in and day out.
90 to 95% are
Yeah.
repetitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that number
So
working for
it's,
you?
the phrase humans are creatures of habit, it's definitely for a reason.
So true. And Bridget, there are actually studies that I just was reading a couple weeks ago that because of technology and social media and podcast and all of the way that we get flooded with data every day, their studies are showing that we have about 90,000 thoughts a day,
Wow. Okay.
but still 80% negative. That number didn't change. So
Hmm.
you get hit with so much data all day long that, and 95% of our thoughts are repetitive.
Right.
90% of what we do on a daily basis is conditioned habitual behavior. I mean, you could just start going
Right.
down the
Yeah.
line. And if you don't start
Right.
changing things, you are going to have the same year you had previously. And you might be stuck and you might be, I had the same year again. So frustrated. I keep doing the same thing over and over. Well, of course you do.
Well, you just mentioned some people say it's frustrating. Some people feel comfortable, they get complacent. They're like, "You know what, Tony? I'm fine. If I just sell between 30 and 35 homes a year, I'm okay. It's a good life." And then they get a 1-2 punch of inflation and erosion because as you know, if you're not growing your business, you're either growing or rotting on the vine. There's not a
So
stasis, right? So then they have the natural drift and erosion that occurs, and inflation and life, right? And then 35 homes a year is now 28. Financial stress. The next year is 24. Real financial stress. They have to let go of, it just, and then they say, oh, now I'm feeling pain. I want to get out of this pain. Maybe I should reach out to Tony. But what
Yes.
you're saying is, why don't we cut out all of those bad sequels? Why don't let's cut out the bad sequels. Let's get back on a trilogy that is going to grow and become stronger,
Yes. Yep.
right? Be
Yeah. And
proactive.
yeah, and it could even be just so if your goal isn't to do more units, is it to have more joy and peace, right? And
Correct. Yeah,
this
there's
creates
different
it
goals.
big time. Yeah.
Yeah. I just know in our chosen focused industry, although you also have the big hospitality background as well, but in our chosen industry of real estate, the example I gave is one that you and I probably could list 100 people who've fallen into that trap. Very common agent
Yes.
trap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially right now, we're in a market that, I've been doing this since 2001 and that I've never experienced. And it takes skills. And part of that
It
skill is
does.
getting this right so it doesn't take you down because of all of the exterior stuff that's coming at you.
I have another question about possibly another form of resistance. Do you get many of the skeptics? Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
Tony,
woo woo.
that's airy fairy. I'm too intelligent to fall for that. My brain works with reality, and that's do you get much of that?
I think when I started on the journey of NLP and master practitioner and all that fun stuff, it was there was some resistance. It was like, you're manipulating me. I don't want to be
Mhm.
manipulated. That was what I would get more than, it's woo woo. Uh,
Mhm.
and that was just their way of staying safe and, respect other people's model of the world. I'm not here to force you or to change it, but let's really just take a look at what's happening in your business, where you are and where you would like to be. And let's explore what you've done and do you think it's going to get you there? And if not, again, could we look at this differently? It's like a buffet. Take what you want. If you don't like green
Right.
beans, pass on the green beans and go get broccoli, whatever it is. So you don't have to do all of it. But even just talking to them about their thoughts cracks open the door possibility for them. So sometimes you did have to just take a little baby step
That's
first
right.
to get them to see that their thoughts really are. Just get them aware of it. Hey, pay attention to your thoughts today and let me know what you find
Mhm.
out.
Okay.
And then they come
Has
back and say,
this
okay, help.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I opened the door and it was a scary place. Okay, let's work on that. Yeah. How has this shown up, if you don't mind sharing? How has this shown up for you in your personal life or maybe even just in, you as a man and how you feel about yourself? Like share a little bit about non-business examples of
Sure.
how this has impacted you.
Yeah, it's very open. I was raised by very conservative Catholic parents that were children of the Depression. And so
Mhm.
my mom and dad had a belief that, we're not those people. And I was like, why aren't we those people? Did we get in the wrong line? How do I get in the line? I want to be those people, meaning people that had more money
Oh,
or people
gotcha.
that
Okay.
were experiencing a bigger
Right,
life,
right.
because as a
Yes.
kid, I was like, why aren't we doing that?
Mhm.
And they just didn't have that belief. And so I would experience success and then it would quickly go away. And I'd be like, oh,
Okay.
they were
Mhm.
right. They were right. We're not those people. I just need to accept what is versus what I want or what I see of my life. And it really wasn't until I started evolving and realizing that there was another way and it wasn't a line to get into or a special gift that things started to change for me. And I mean, I had great success when I was in the hospitality industry and I dabbled a little bit in some thought work. I just didn't know it was exactly that. And I had two incredible mentors, Dale and Clayton, that I met when I was a sophomore in college at the Reservation Center in Omaha, Nebraska for Marriott Hotels
Right.
that planted the seed that I could do whatever I wanted to do.
And
And
that has grown immensely. That seed has
yeah,
grown.
it grew. I mean, I went from a reservation agent through the ranks to a general manager to a regional director, back to a GM because I wanted to get off the road. But this kid from Omaha with parents who didn't believe that you should it was possible for you. I led a really big life. And that was kind of my awareness of that was their story. It didn't have to be mine. So that, I
That's
mean,
awesome.
yeah, it
And
really is
you
game
can
changing.
still love, respect, and value them, even though you have a different reality. Yeah. Isn't it great?
100%.
That is so
Yeah,
freeing.
it really is. And it was fun as a young adult to be able to do things for them. They usually resisted it, but occasionally I could sneak something in. No, I did learn from them the value of money, the value of hard work. They both were entrepreneurs. So I
Mhm.
got that from them. That's why I
From
didn't
them.
last. I was 13 and a half, 14 years at Marriott, and I had the itch to always go do something for me. And so I learned a lot from them. And here's the thing. Most of what we learn and is ingrained and embedded with us happens by the age of 7,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you know this from your training. And so, and it's not just your parents, it's a teacher, it's a relative, it's a friend, it's
Siblings.
overhearing a conversation while you're out and about. That really can impact you for the rest of your life. And so it's not just that parent unit, you're influenced by a lot of stuff. So you've
What
got to
if
make the
someone
decision.
do you have to make the decision. And I want to jump back to a specific question around your thought flow again.
Yes.
So something happens and you find yourself having either a negative thought or you're perceiving it as negative and it impacts your mood and the way you're feeling about yourself. Could you give an example of how you would help someone stop the process right then? So what do you recommend if someone's listening and they're like, "Oh, I can so relate to this. Are they following me around with a camera?"
Right.
But they don't know like so what's a very could you walk us through? You find yourself you have 3 deals. We'll stay in real estate for a minute if that's okay. You have 3 deals, VIP clients, they're domino deals. And the first deal has an issue, and now the whole thing's in jeopardy, and you feel out of control and frustrated, and why not this and that? And you feel yourself going into spiral thoughts or negative thoughts. What can someone do to snap out of it?
Yeah, there's a 4 question model, but really the simplest thing to do, number one, is just ask yourself, is it true or is it familiar? Because remember, 80% of our thoughts are negative. And so when you're having that thought, I just like to stop myself and say, okay, is it true or is it just a thought that feels familiar?
Familiar.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
not
that.
true. It's familiar. And so now I'm like, okay, that's familiar. That's fear. That's, it's creating this loop, right? And once you kind of take a step back and you realize it could be true, right? But maybe not. You can go into, I love Byron Katie. She has those 4 powerful questions around disempowering thought. Is the thought true? So you kind of get, is it familiar or true can be enough sometimes to blow it up. If it's
Right.
not, it really just sit with, hey, is it true? And in the heat of the moment, you might be like, heck, yes, it's true. You might be so committed, right? You might be like, I'm in it. It's so true. And then you want to ask yourself, is it 100% true? Is it true
Mhm.
every single time? That one question is probably the most important question to ask because once you realize it's not 100% true, you've cracked open the door of a different possibility.
Correct.
Right? And so, is it true? Is it 100% true? And then you just ask yourself the question, if I hold on to the belief that it's true, what's the impact? How am I going to end up showing up? Frustrated, angry, whatever, whatever it
Right.
is, uh,
Your
limiting my
energy will
success.
fuel the negative. Yeah.
Yes, 100%, right? And so it's like, okay, if I continue forward holding on to the thought that I know now is not 100% true, how am I going to show up if I still believe it? It's usually negative.
Correct.
However, we've asked ourselves the question, is it 100% true? And it's not. So, who could I or how could I show up? And you lean into that possibility of a different outcome. That will generate a different thought for you. And in that moment where you make a decision on how you could show up or what thought you could have that serves you, I am an intelligent broker. I am gifted. Money flows easily. Whatever it is, whatever
I'm a
that thought
master
is,
problem solver.
yes,
Yeah.
beautiful, right? I'm a master problem solver. Now that is my new thought. Now you run that new thought through the model. This is what I do with clients is I have them every morning journal and do a thought dump of all their thoughts, just thought flow for 10 minutes. And then the formula will be true. 80% will be negative, 20% will be positive. Pick the one negative that's really kicking you in the gut, run it through the model: thought, feeling, action, result. Now, do the 4 questions and come up with your new thought. I'm a masterful negotiator. Now run that thought through the model. And you get to see the impact of the results. If you'd hold on to the old thought, crummy results. You do the new thought, run it through the model, the potential is unlimited. That's how we use the model with my clients that we coach, is just let's run it through the model.
I think it sounds remarkable and really transformative. And it sounds like the change, it's going to create lasting change because this is a tool you go to every day.
Yes. Every
If you
day.
take a shower every day, you're clean every day, at least most of the day, right? Like unless something happens. You do a workout or you get splashed by a car on the curb,
Yes.
So I feel like this is really, it's really insightful. I would also like for our listeners, carry it through. So when I envision this, I see it as um a self-fulfilling cycle that gets stronger each time it goes through the loop. So could you take us from you get the result, and then what does it come back to? Like can you complete the loop for us one more time? I know you've said it, but can you just spend a little time on that result to the next thought?
Yeah. I mean, so if you're getting the result that you want, right, that's a win. And so really focusing on that win. And this is where, the win or the loss, right? Whether it's the result you want or the result you don't want, there's feedback for you in both. And so if it's the result you want, I still would pause and say, okay, what was the thought that generated the feeling or emotion that I had before I took action? Because that action worked. And what is the action I took? Because I want to duplicate that again and again and
And
again.
again,
Right. And so you sit with that result and really get clear, because now I know the story that I need to tell myself every day. I'm a powerful negotiator. I'm unstoppable. You hold on to those. That was the thought I was having that generated this feeling that allowed me to take action with the right energy and emotion and gave me the results. I want to have those thoughts more and more and more. So you can work them into an affirmation. You could do whatever you
yes.
want with it, right? That will continue to fuel the result that you're looking to get.
And you're going to end up with a higher ratio of wins.
One
It's inevitable.
1000%.
So it's not going to be 100%. Like it's not everything is a win, but you're going to have more wins than losses.
Yeah, and even, sometimes we look at we consider it a loss if we didn't hit the big goal,
Hmm.
and we have to look at what's the little win. Like, I showed up, I managed my thoughts, I came into this with good energy, I made my dials, or I did whatever activity I was going to do. I just didn't get a yes. Right, but the win is that I was controlling how I was showing up, I was controlling my feeling, I was in that right space so that if somebody would have been ready, they would have said, "Yes, that's a win.
That's right.
That's a
Yes,
win." We wanna focus on that, "I got 2 appointments." That's not the reality, that's not it.
that's right.
So, look at the little wins in that journey, and the little wins stacked on top of each other build momentum and bigger wins.
You just inspired me, and I want to, it's a rough idea, but you just inspired an idea that I want to do with my clients. So you're exactly right. So after, let's say, a closing or a successful hire or a successful recruit, if someone is a sales manager, like someone's under you is achieving their goal, right? We tend, for the most part, to look at all of the data. What was the gross closed income? What was the review written? What, did all these activities happen? And we look at the numbers, the data. What I'm thinking is on every big win, there should be an additional column, so to speak, where we keep a record of what were your thoughts and mindset at the beginning of that client relationship or the beginning of that recruiting appointment or that, whatever it was. What if we kept a log of that? Right, attached part of the debriefing after a big win.
I think it's brilliant because success leaves clues, right? So
Yeah.
if you know the thought that got you the result that you were
Yes,
after, and you can say, okay, I just repeat, right? Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I think it's brilliant, Bridget, because
I really
sometimes we
like it.
just do things out of habit and we don't realize what we've done. And it's just taking that moment. And if you're recording it, you've got the information in front of you.
That's right, because typically it's very clinical. Source of business,
Yes.
date of close. But if you add that in, I even carried it to a thought of, let's say someone's really facing a true devastation, their mindset goes sideways. Just imagine, let's say I'm a Google spreadsheet nerd. Let's say they open their Google spreadsheet with all of their wins and can go to that column and just read all of their thoughts from the past before their success. I want to do that for myself now. It's making me tear up a little bit. Like that could be,
That's
could you
powerful.
imagine like looking at that? Wouldn't that be a salve for the soul when you're truly in a devastated state?
100%. That's part of that morning routine. And I still do it. I mean, I've worked on mindset now for 16 years. And every morning I will sit with my journal for 10 minutes and just write thought after thought after thought after thought after thought. And you would think that after all these years of training, I wouldn't have 80% negative thoughts. But here's the difference. I work through it, I change it, I use the models and make a positive thought. But what I do know is that I can choose to spend more time in the 20%. I might not
Right.
be able to change the percentage,
Right.
but I get to choose where I spend my time.
Your time. That's right.
And so if you're running it through the model, you're changing the thought, you're seeing now the new positive thought and the impact it can have. Just like what you were saying, like I can flip through the
And you
past
can look
year's
at that all.
stuff and I
Yes.
can look at it what's surprising, 95% is repetitive. It's like, dang it. I dealt with that same darn thing in February and March, and here it is July, and it came back up again. It's going to be with you for the rest of your life. A negative thought. You just
I
get
have
to choose how
one.
long you're going to stay in it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. One other question.
Yes.
So I know we've spent in our conversation a lot of time in business application, and I believe this extends beyond hospitality and real estate and sales even. This is really for anyone who's interacting with other humans in a work environment. Like so it's got such broad application. Have you ever had a time where in a personal relationship, so not outside of work, you felt maybe things weren't where you wanted them to be? Have you ever, with intentionality, used the thought flow concept to evaluate that and see if you could show up as in a different way in that relationship? Does it carry over to personal relationships?
Yeah. 100% because there's two people in that partnership, right? Whether it's a friendship, a marriage, whatever it is. And I think you first have to look at you have only control over you. And so I would definitely say, how was I showing up? What was the feeling I had when I was talking to Bridget? Was I anxious? Was I fearful? Was I angry? Like, what was it? And I could go back to what was the thought I had. And sometimes, Bridget, we do a terrible thing to ourselves and to others is we lock you in, like we make this definition of this person and we never let them out of that jail. They did one
Right.
thing and one thing, and for the rest of their life, they're going to be that person that did that, right? And you hold them in that spot. And so when you can assess to say, you know what, I had that thought about her, it generated this feeling. It caused me to show up and take action as closed off or whatever it is, which got me a result of not a very empowering conversation. You 100% can use this in every area of your life. And then you get to ask yourself, is the story true that I'm holding you captive in this area? Is that really fair to you? Because that's going to drive every one of our interactions. So I get to choose either reframe or we work together on changing that story I have about you. Or you might
Right.
decide, I can't have this person in my world.
Right. You're right. Yeah, you could also make that choice. But then at least there's an intentionality around it. And I believe you're removing the emotional charge or the negative energy that's attached to it. Because if you actually think through, it may not change your relationship. You may get clarity on its position in your life? Was that a time and a season? Is it continuing? But it's with intentionality and with your emotions between the lines.
Yes.
I think it'd be
Yes.
really beneficial. And I also believe
Yes.
that people that are able to do that, they're the ones that maybe there was a large upset, very large. Sometimes I'm understated. But then they're able to see people and be cordial and natural. So, yeah, and you know what I'm talking about. There's the cordial that's not natural. Oh,
Yes.
hello, Tony, at a cocktail party. How are you? But you know what I'm talking about. Or someone where there was the disconnect. When you've really dealt with it through this system, you can see them at an event and say like, "Hey, Tony, hope everything's going well," and
Yes.
it seems natural, right? I think it's
Yeah. Go
powerful.
ahead. It is powerful because when you're the previous, like when you're kind of
Yeah,
expressing, you really
yeah,
don't feel the way you say you feel. Like you really
correct.
don't
The
care how they are.
audio
You just kind
doesn't
of want
match
to
the video.
shove their
Yeah,
face down in a thing of broken glass. It's really just kind of going back to like, what story am I holding onto around this? And that story is just a thought. And so I get to now choose what I do with that thought. So I can either, run it through and change it, change the thought, or, I might have to have a conversation of, hey, this happened and this is what I believe to be the truth. And you might be like, that wasn't it at all. And now
right,
together,
right. Yes,
right
yeah.
now
Now, yeah,
together, we've changed the thought. So yeah, I think it's really beneficial that this is the model is I use in every aspect of my
of
life,
life.
my business, my marriage, my projects, all of it. Because if you're not in the right headspace with thoughts, you're not going to get the result that you
I
desire.
absolutely agree.
You're just
If
not.
someone is out there and they are listening to us and I don't want to put words in anyone's head, but if they're feeling either overwhelmed or stressed or frustrated and they're listening to the podcast because they're just looking for one thing that will help them get out of the way they're feeling right now, what would you recommend?
I mean, it's that we've heard this before, right? Get real, get right. It's really just take a moment and calm the brain.
Yes.
Just silence is probably the best thing. And sometimes people want to avoid that because it forces you to deal with the stuff.
Thoughts.
But but the thing that's happening is it's a movie is running in the background at all times. Your thoughts, right? You don't have 60,000 conscious thoughts a day. It's a combination of conscious and unconscious. So if somebody is really struggling, it's because their unconscious is running the program right now. And so my recommendation would be just sit in some silence, set a 10-minute timer on your phone, and just every line write out a thought. And don't, what we tend to do is write the thought out that we want to judge it. Well, that's only true if just write the
Yep.
thought out. No judgment, no emotion, nothing. Don't try to solve it. Just sit with it and write it out and then reflect on that and say, which is the one that is kicking me in the gut the most? Which is the one and that's the one, even if you don't want to run it through the model, if you just sat with, is it true or is it just an old familiar thought? That could be enough to just loosen things up a little bit to help you move forward. But that would be what I would do.
I think that that is excellent. I call that like centering yourself, getting that breathing. Sometimes I even go and lay down in the grass, just like shut off all external bombardment, which we're surrounded with constantly
Constant.
now. And then I love that idea of do the writing, isolate the one. I'm going to add on reach out,
Yeah. Yes,
uh, you
please.
know, and I'm going to have in all my descriptions, there's a link where with our company Coaching Nexus, where you and I both practice our coaching businesses, you can reach out. They can set up a free, no obligation meeting with one of
Yes.
our amazing coaches. Let someone help you. And
Yes.
I don't know about you, Tony, but I know sometimes it's easier to be vulnerable and open up to a stranger that you know is skilled in that arena than it is to even one of your closest confidants. So if you are in that feeling of you really truly want change, and you feel like you don't know where to start and there's any of the words. I don't even like saying them out loud, so it's hard for me to list them off. You all know what feelings you're having that are not positive. Reach out. It's one of the
Yes.
best leverages you will ever get.
Yes, because we're looking at it through a different lens as a coach. and we can
Right.
ask questions that can help, break that story up for you. And then once we can release some of that stronghold you have on that emotion, then we can actually work on changing the thought. But yeah, I mean, if I wouldn't have hired the coach that I hired back in 2010 when I was floundering, that specialized in mindset, that knew
Yes.
this. It wasn't called the thought flow, but that's what we call it. And I wouldn't have used them. I probably would have continued to fail and either resigned or been fired.
Hmm.
And because I've had coaches much longer prior to that too, but they weren't certified or trained in this one thing. So yeah, reach out. I mean, there's nothing where you're not on an island. And I know
That's right.
we offer a strategy session that they can call us and we'll have a
That's
conversation.
right.
It's not an obligation. We just want to help.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
reach out.
Yeah, you do not need to. First off, you're not alone. If you are, if anyone out there is thinking, "Oh, I'm the only person that feels this way," Tony and I have news for you. No, you're not. Okay. But you
Yes, you're
also
not.
do not have to. You don't have to solve this alone.
No. And it's without a lot of tools and resources, it's challenging to solve it on your own.
Very challenging.
It really is. We
Very
might be able
challenging.
to loosen it up a little bit, but we want to blast the story. We want to change
Yes,
it. We want to give you the tools that you can live the life that you want to live or have the business you want to have. Change can happen in an instant, right?
it really can. And you
Yeah.
mentioned, we're going to blast the story and start writing the new story
Yeah.
today, right? So
Yes.
it's like it's a dual benefit. It's amazing. Well, I
100%.
so appreciate having you on here. And I just want to let everyone know again. So, Tony Caliendo, you're an amazing executive level coach.
Thank you.
You do have it's Rethink Coaching, which is
Yes.
so drenched in changing the way people perceive themselves and what they're capable of, and then pushing them to do it. If I was looking at your company, and that's what came across to me from your coaching that you offer. And I just am so thrilled that you shared this with us today. If
Oh my
people wanted
gosh.
to follow you, or where can they follow you? I'm going to put all of this in the description.
Yes.
So
You
where
got it.
can people
So
follow you?
I'm on Instagram, Tony Caliendo, Facebook, Tony Caliendo, Rethink
Great.
Coachings as well. I do most of my stuff on my personal page,
Hmm.
so find me
Good.
there. And then I also have a podcast, The Mindset Architect, so you can find me there. And
Excellent.
yeah, so I'm pretty. If you Google like you, Bridget, I mean, my gosh, we're kind of easy to find. If you
Yes.
just Google me, you'll find
Yes.
me.
Okay, good. So that's really great. And Tony, would you do me the honor of being a guest again in the future? I would
I would
love to have more
love it.
conversations around this with you.
100%. I would truly, truly be thrilled to participate. You've created
Thank
the
you.
space for great things to happen and for people to have change. So yeah, I'd love to be part of it.
Great. And thank you. If you're listening to the Inner Estate, I hope that you'll come back for the next episode. Have a great day.